So in broad strokes, could you just like walk us through your career from selling security systems to
Oh boy.
chicken farms to
Well, my dad was a burglar alarm guy as a side hustle to being a helicopter pilot for a TV station. So some weird D-list celebrity stuff, and then toting dad screwdrivers around and learning how circuits worked, and doing serial programming, understanding firmware, and like literally burning programs into chips with the little prom burners. Um, Thinking all that stuff was cool, salivating over the newest Sharper image catalog when I was a little kid, on up through putting burglar alarms in, selling burglar alarms, and then moving into the industry part of it and selling the alarm and access control equipment to dealers or through a dealer network. And then I ended up on a Department of Justice funded development project to make crime scene management apps. This is pre-iPad. The thing that ran it all was called a M2M box, or an M2M communicator, which is basically a cell phone with wires. And that was the precursor to IoT.
okay.
So M2M's not just a section on Craigslist. It was machine-to-machine communications, and it was how one machine would talk to another. So I thought this thing was the coolest thing ever, and kind of touching back to my Sharper image days, was anxious to figure out what to do with it. So when they killed the project, they gave me a very lengthy severance package because we had done such a good job, and it just didn't work out commercially. So they decided to go a different route, and I took that machine-to-machine communicator box home with me and thought, I'm going to figure out something to do with this. So I started Googling what's big in Western North Carolina. Agriculture was high on the list. So I put on a suit and tie and went out to a chicken farm with my little black box with wires, and told the chicken farmer that answered the door. I said, I think I can help you manage a farm. And he said, "You from the government?" I said, "No, sir." He said, "Why are you wearing that suit, boy?" and and I realized I probably outplayed my coverage a little bit there, and I dialed it back from that moment on. But I built a business around collecting data from pig and chicken farms, displaying the information on KPI dashboards, and I managed to bootstrap it out of my garage. I raised some money, and then ultimately sold that and went to work for the software platform that I built it on. That software platform was called ThingWorks. When I sold the company, I was probably one of their third or fourth customers, and I got to meet the infamous Rick Bellotta and John Richardson and Russ Fidel. And John Richardson really stepped up and said, "Hey, we're going to make this work for you." And I think ultimately I ended up as part of the story that they told when they sold the business. And like, I think that's kind of cool. It's really a neat story about, it in a kind of a tangential way. My little kids at the time were telling their teachers that their daddy sold cell phones to chickens. And I can only imagine that, they all thought I was a drug dealer, right? Because he sells cell phones to yeah, exactly. But I legitimately did sell cellular devices to chicken farms that gathered environmental data. I evangelized data-driven decisions on the farm. If you Google hard enough, you'll find that I've spoken at a number of broiler breeder conferences. In some circles, I'm kind of a big deal. It's just,
I can see it. So from chicken farms to Magic Axiom, how did that
okay.
come about?
So I exited Dirt Road Data and went to work for PTC. My ThingWorks rep hired me to sell ThingWorks. I had a successful career at PTC. I left and bopped around a couple of other data-centric startups, and then ended up at Magic. And since I've been at Magic, a number of my friends have come to work here that I've met along the course of my career, and then they've brought some of their friends. And now we all get to work together and basically make fun of each other. That's the primary reason to come to work every day, is to see
Absolutely.
who you can point at and laugh.
That is the goal. So, what is something, most people, if you think about just what you've seen in manufacturing, especially today, what's something that's widely accepted that you disagree with fundamentally? Think about like data-driven decisions or, you know, anything along those lines.
I think people overestimate the abilities of what AI is going to do for us. I see that it is absolutely a great accelerant.
Mhm.
It can absolutely cure some of the mind-numbing minutia details that we have to have in our daily lives. For instance, like expense reports. No
Right.
longer do I have to go drag and drop things into a sheet and submit it. There's an agent that goes through my email box and does all of that stuff. Like, it's super simple and really has been a great addition to what I do. But it's not being creative, nor does it have thumbs, nor does it, you know, have have to do anything but compile some rudimentary data.
Yeah. So you disagree with the doomerism view of, they're coming to take all AI is coming to take our jobs in the very
I think AI is coming to change the way the economy works,
yeah.
and I 100% agree with that. I do not think that AI is going to take our jobs. I think there will always be a place for us to be productive in the ways that humans have always been achievers.
Okay. Yeah. It's fair.
We just what is it? I think it's Malcolm Gladwell that talks about who moved my cheese.
Yeah.
The cheese is moving, so
Right.
it's time to figure out how to engage in a modern capitalist society, right?
Yeah, I agree. Kind of tying into that as far as you have software, hardware, vendors selling SaaS. Um, where do you see the solutions as a service model playing into that? And how would you define solutions as a service? I guess would be a better place to start.
Well, the old way of doing things is we have built software and we have assessed that the market needs the software, and here are the features and benefits of the software, and you should fit 80% of you should fit into this box, and then the other 20% we're going to charge you professional services to make it a bespoke solution that fits your exact needs. And the way solutions as a service now approaches the same set of problems is kind of like your doctor. Like, show me where it hurts, and I will custom make you an entire band-aid, not just trim the edges around it so it exactly fits your boo-boo. Um, I I think that's the simplest way to say it, but, you go through an exercise with a crew like Magix or Axioms, and you talk through the outcomes that you desire, and you assign development resources that are heavily accentuated by either our purpose-built tools that we have developed internally that make us faster to deliver, or AI, or both, and get to a bespoke solution really fast, weeks.
Yeah. What is something that customers get out of that model that they literally couldn't get from
Time to value, right? Like,
okay.
I have a problem, I have an answer, and the distance between those two is now very short. It's no longer, well, we're going to do a sales process. It's going to take 6 to 8 weeks to complete that in a best case scenario. And then we're going to have 3 to 8 months of development. And then we're going to do acceptance testing. And then we're going to do deployment. And then we're going to do production releases, et cetera, et cetera. Like, you're 12, 24 months out from an answer,
Right.
where we're now, you know, at most 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah. That's substantial.
Yeah.
What do you think the next decade of, if you think about this solutions as a service model, AI, how it all kind of convalesces into how do you think manufacturers are going to buy and consume technology in the next decade?
The only people that I have met that are slower to adopt technology than manufacturers are farmers. Um, if it works, if it's not broken, let's not fix it, is
Yeah.
kind of the mantra. And I have been on a number of farms where there's literally some farm implement that has been fixed with duct tape and coat hangers or baling wire, or, some other some other band-aid fix,
Right.
right? Manufacturers have capitalized their equipment over the course of decades, and many of mid-market manufacturers today still don't have a data infrastructure to even begin to address some of these AI needs. Like, there's no worry that they're going to put AI in their plant because there's no data in their plant. The data is Larry with a clipboard, and Larry's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Until they change their machines, there's nothing to do about that. And, all of those people are making decisions now about what the future of manufacturing looks like for their products, their people, their families, and they're making a justification to do it or not to do it, right? And I would guess that many of them are saying, I make enough money the way I'm doing it now.
Why should I change?
Why should I change? I in my career at PTC, I talked to a manufacturer that makes foam goods, and they literally said something to the effect of, "Boy, we've been printing money for years. Why would we stop now?" And I don't know why all of the antagonists in my stories have Southern accents, but they do.
Goes with the chicken farm theme.
That's right.
Yes. So yeah, tying into the baling wire and the chicken farms, what's one of your favorite customer stories that you think of?
There's a number of good stories out of the chicken farm days. Early on, I like one of the things I tell people now when I talk about how I learned things was I approached this poultry farmer about improving his operations, and he was vehemently upset that I had challenged him on the way his production practices worked. And he said, "Boy, you telling me I'm doing it wrong? My daddy taught me how to do it like this." Again, very Southern. And I said, "No, sir, I'm not saying your daddy taught you wrong. I'm saying there might just be a more right way to do it today." And I didn't want to be disingenuous to his relationship with his dad, nor did I want to say that there was anything wrong with that. I just wanted to point out that there was a better way to do it. And that's really what I'd like manufacturing as a whole to take away today. Just because you've been doing it this way for eons doesn't mean you have to continue to do it that way.
Right.
If you want to improve, you can. Many times that's with technology or through technology.
Yeah.
And in that case, there are lots of modern solutions to help you with that.
Right.
If you just want to do better with the things that you have and not use technology, you can always get some really fancy consultants to come in with stopwatches and clipboards and do
Yeah.
time studies and figure out how to make more with less.
Right. So one of those problems I see in my experience in manufacturing is a lot of the old ways include old ways of paying, and it's really hard to get new talent into plants in areas that kind of suck. Not much going on, and it's hard to get people when you're paying the same as McDonald's. So what's some ways that you can think about that, might be a way to challenge those kind of.
So, if you use technology like activity-based costing, for instance, you could drill into the different roles and archetypes inside of a plant and assign value to them, and then do performance-based pay on output-based output. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
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 So, pay for performance. That's not a new paradigm, right? Like, sales guys have been getting paid commissions since the dawn of sales guys, right? If you want to earn money, you go out and sell something. If you want to produce something, you go out and produce it.
Right.
And being able to just point in at the superstars with your pay, I think that's a great way that technology could be used to improve plant performance.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like the idea of a meritocracy. You get paid for what you
That's
what
right.
value you bring in.
I don't have to carry all the dead weight on my back, just my own.
Yeah, exactly. No, I like that a lot. The when I think of like the pay for performance model, I think of like ESOPs maybe.
Yeah.
that seems to be a model I see more and more, especially around the smaller to mid-sized manufacturers.
So an ESOP does a good job of abstracting the performance at a site level,
Yeah.
right? And what I'm talking about with activity-based costing is down to the individual level. But at a site level, you're still kind of all communistically involved in success, right? Like, hey, this is my brother. If my brother falls down, I'm going to pick him up. In the individual plan, you're saying if your brother falls down, you're going to keep going.
Right.
I need you to sprint.
Yeah.
And I want you to sprint, and I'm purposely incenting you to sprint. Communistically, there's probably a right way to apply that to many different scenarios. And I'm sure businesses make those kinds of decisions all the time.
Yeah. What are some of the you worked at PTC and some of these other tech companies. What are some of the things that maybe you could bring from that tech world into how manufacturers?
Well, PTC is heavily involved in manufacturing.
Right, sure. Yeah.
They're famous for PLM and CAD and how that impacts manufacturing operations when they purchased ThingWorks and Kepware and Vuforia. It was all with an eye on how to improve manufacturing outcomes. What was your question?
What are some parallels from like that some of the like tech model that could be applied to manufacturing that might be value added? We can also skip if it's a question. Fair enough.
Skip it. Edit that out.
Yeah. So the last question. For maybe a plant manager that's got capacity constraints, but not necessarily a big budget, and they want to do more with less, and their main argument is, I've already got these people I'm paying for in house. Why can't I just do what you want me to do with the resources I have? Like, why should I bring in an external consultant to help me figure out these problems?
Well, I would, in the most coy way possible, say that if you want a different result, you have to do things differently, and I mean that genuinely, not sarcastically.
Yeah.
I bend to the sarcastic frequently, so I wanted to be clear.
Yes.
But if you want to do something, if you want to have a different outcome, you have to do things differently. And getting outside eyes to look at your problems will offer fresh perspectives. And that's a very real way to get started. If you called us up, we wouldn't necessarily require an engagement to come out and just chat with you and offer you some insights as to, hey, here's some pretty low hanging fruit here.
Right.
Now, if you wanted to engage us, we'd of course want you to engage us professionally, but just to have a conversation. We're all pretty friendly.
Yeah.
Some of us are even handsome.
And that's a wrap.